town where I'm from, where everybody's southern raised, just as good as they come. Backwoods and Macioke and mud holes. And back then we only ate what the farm grow. Man, I miss some days how we played on them dirt roads. And out of towners came with respect, cause they know we all close. Yeah, Southern pride, toting gun folks. Welcome to my city, I-75 South, just north of Live Oak.
I'm from a city called Austin, Georgia, right on the border of Florida. I was raised on these dirt roads, mud tires, backwoods when they ride this small town living, yeah. Now welcome to my city, downtown, 229, turn it up so they can hear it loud. We get it up with big trucks and heavy G's, pretty girls with moonshine and whiskey.
It's nothing like our dirt roads, you can bet that, son. I'm from a city, by any means, we gon' protect our guns. I hang with the rednecks and geekies. We get up in big trucks in the backwoods like Indians and teepees. This the home of the mighty, mighty Vikings. Wildcats, blazing, Titletown license. Winners, pretty girls with country grammar. When I say about Austin, Georgia, I ain't talking about Atlanta. This a different type of city, where the woods are pretty, but get gritty. You hear me? What you know about that 229? You can find us on the Florida, Georgia line, where I reside.
I'm from a city called Austin, Georgia, right on the border of Florida. I was raised on these dirt roads, mud tires, backwoods when we ride this small town living, yeah. Now welcome to my city, downtown, 229, turn it up so they can hear it loud. We get it up with big trucks and heavy G's, pretty girls with moonshine and whiskey. Georgia, right on the border of Florida. I was raised on these dirt roads, mud tires, backwoods when we ride this small town living, yeah. Now welcome to my city, downtown, 229, turn it up so they can hear it loud. We get it up with big trucks and heavy G's, pretty girls with moonshine and whiskey.
Hey, good evening and welcome to the 229. Welcome to the Viking Nation Live, your weekly jaunt, not down memory lane, but Viking lane. Hope you guys have had a great week. Looking forward to Thursday all week long so we can spend the next hour and some change together talking about everything Lowndes athletics, as well as things that are happening in the community and around the state. Hope you guys have had a fantastic week. I know I have. It's been a very, very busy week. Greg Maddox is fresh out of the gate, says, good evening, LG. Good evening, Greg. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Listen, we got a lot to talk about tonight. We really do. I was hoping to have Shane Thomas, a sports reporter from the Valdosta Daily Times, calling in later on in the show to talk about spring practices right around the corner. And so we got a lot to talk about there. What to expect from both the Lowndes program and the Valdosta program. Because, we've had some off the field stuff that happened with Lowndes and Valdosta that could potentially affect not just the spring, but affect the regular season as well. So hoping to get some insight from Shane there. I think he might be on assignment tonight. So I'm going to try to text him and remind him about tonight's call. But if you can't, maybe you can join us next week because we still have a lot to talk about. Guys, there is stuff that's being proposed at the state level that it's going to blow your mind. It is really, really going to blow your mind. That has to do with all kinds of stuff that goes from instant replay all the way down to recruiting at the middle school level now. So anyway, Coach Trainer says should be a good season in terms of wins and losses. Schedule is pretty easy. Trainer, I actually agree with you. And after last season, I don't know if that's a bad thing. you know, well, I think our program needs a shot of confidence right now, and so what better way to get some confidence other than get some easy wins under your belt, especially early on. So I expect us to be at least 3-0, 4-0, maybe even 5-0 heading into the second half of the season. I mean, the schedule is setting up very, very favorably for Lounge. So 100% in agreement with you, trainer. But so we'll get into all that. Listen, baseball is having a pretty good season. We're going to have the school system in this area is on spring break this week. So when we return to the next week's regularly scheduled program, we're going to have Ryan Page, head coach of Lowndes Baseball, on the program. He's going to be talking about his Vikings heading into the latter part of the season. And we're going to have Ashley Anders on as well. He is the second-year defensive coordinator for our Lowndes Vikings. And we're going to talk to him about, this potential new defensive scheme that the Vikings are going to run, the 3-3 stack. And that's what we're expecting. We've seen the 3-man front before. Lowndes is no stranger to that. We've had some DCs that have run that scheme, but is that different from the 3-3 stack? So we gotta drill down a little bit deeper and see what's on Coach Anders' mind. So we'll see. Let's see. Luke Bush says, great news out of Michael Barrett camp announcement, class act. Luke, I have had my head down, busy in work, so break the news for us, man. Give us a shout. You see the phone number right on the screen, 229-460-1205. Call in, man. Give us some breaking news. Yeah, Michael Barrett has always been a stud when it comes to Lowndes football. He's done well at the University of Michigan. Maybe the announce. So, Luke, I'm not sure if you are talking about maybe an NFL announcement or something like that, because the draft is coming up pretty soon. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. So give us a heads up. Guys, before we get too much further into the program tonight, I want to make sure I thank our sponsors, of course, Pepsi of Valdosta. We want to thank these guys for always stepping up to the plate and sponsoring just not our program, but other programs in the area, because they are an important community partner with us and other programs out there. So we want to thank the fine folks at Pepsi of Valdosta, the makers of Pepsi, Mountain Dew Rockstar, Mountain Dew Energy, and Mountain Dew Spark, and this new drink, Starry, the limited line flavored drink at your local retailer. We also want to thank Kyle Conger at White Oak Investment. He not only is a good sponsor of the show, but he also sponsors the White Oak Investment comment line as well. So every time you guys put a comment up there, make sure you think of Kyle Conger. If you have a need for a financial advisor, now is the time to contact Kyle. Well, not this week because he's on the spring break vacation with his family, but next week, give him a call. White Oak Investment, 229-850-8848. We want to thank longtime Viking, and that's Tim Neesmith with a shade of perfection. Tim specializes and is a master at making your windows look beautiful by customizing shades and blinds. So if you have a need for that service, give Timmy a call at 251-3479 or visit his website, A Shade of Perfection. Tim, thank you so much for your friendship and your sponsorship. These guys are the certified headache medicine specialists, and that is Josh Batson and Justin Haskin with the Migraine and Spine Clinic of Valdosta. And, I was playing around the last couple of weeks with a cowboy hat and that kind of stuff. So I think I'm going to install a hat segment. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. I can't say it's going to be a cowboy hat segment because it may not be a cowboy hat every week, because I do have a collection of crazy hats. So we'll get into all that, or it could be just a regular Lowndes hat one day. So anyway, we'll get into all that, and I will reveal. So make sure you stick around, because I've got a doozy of a hat that I'm going to be revealing tonight. And yeah, that's got another sales meeting related story behind it as well. And some of you, I was thinking long and hard about this particular. I'm staring at it. It's sitting on the floor right next to me. I was thinking long and hard. Do I really want to introduce this hat? Greg Maddox is not a straw hat. That's on its way. But this one this week is not a straw hat. So, but I was thinking about this one because my closest friends know that I have a certain reputation. That, and I'm afraid that when I roll out this hat, I'm going to get ribbed like for the rest of my life. But you know what? This show is part Lowndes football, part community spirit, and part just us kicking back, letting down our hair, and having a great time. So basically, it's comedy hour as well. And we're going to introduce a little bit of humor into the show tonight with that crazy hat that I'll be introducing a little bit later on in the show. But anyway, I get the feeling though, when I roll this out, my buddy's going to rib me so hard and so frequently that I'm going to have need of the migraine and spine clinic of Valdostas certified headache medicine specialist, because I may have a migraine after I introduce this segment tonight. So anyway, if you guys have a need for that, give Josh and Justin a call. I want to thank Matthew Godwin, Verizon Wireless on Perimeter. This dude, I keep hearing from you guys when you need a new phone, you need questions answered before you get a new device. Matthew, it doesn't get any better than what that dude and the level of service that he provides. If you need an iPhone, Android accessory, or small business account, give him a call. Yeah, I'm proud of him because he's my son, but at the same time, he is a professional sales rep now, and he knows the importance of providing great customer service, and he's doing it every single day. So give Matthew Godwin a call at Verizon Wireless on Perimeter Road. We want to thank Chandler Kudik with AquaWorks Pool Company. Chandler was just out at my house today, servicing the pool, does a fantastic job. Man, he's got that pool sparkling. It is crystal clear, ready for the weather to turn a little bit warmer so we can warm that water up a little bit. And no, I do not have a pool heater. I was too cheap to install one of those because they're expensive. So I'm waiting for the sunlight to heat it up naturally so we can enjoy that pool. But Chandler has done his part, and he's got this pool rocking and rolling. It is crystal clear. You know, when the weather warms up a little bit, the nights are a little bit warmer, I may do a couple of shows poolside. So you guys get the Viking Nation Live poolside, and you'll see what a great job firsthand that Chandler does with that pool. So if you guys have a need for a pool service, give Chandler a call at AquaWorks Pool Company, 229-415-0752, and he'll hook you up. Our newest sponsor is Imperial Auto Sales. We want to thank these guys, the longtime friend of the show, longtime friend of the Viking Nation, and that is Tony Green and Trey Hatcher. Imperial Auto Sales, they got two offices that help you out on Ashley Street and Bay Tree Road. So if you have the need for a car, give these guys a call, Imperial Auto Sales. And if you don't believe me, guys, get on Google and check out their reviews. They don't get any better. I know some car guys have a bad reputation, not these guys. You should go, and you don't have to believe me, go look up their Google reviews and you will see firsthand outstanding customer service. And so that's what we like to bring to you guys. And finally, we want to thank our good friend Steve Nichols at Freedom with Steve Nichols. You can catch him and his show every Monday through Friday from 6 to 8 a.m. or check him out on his website, freedomnetworks.com. So that's our sponsors. We're going to we're talking to a few more, and I expect a couple more to come on pretty soon. So be really excited and be glad to introduce those guys to you soon. Coach Trainer says community pool party at LG. No, don't be spreading that rumor, Trainer. Don't do it. Don't be spreading that rumor. But I am planning on doing a poolside show one night when the weather is more agreeable. So who we got checking in? Wilbur Pelfrey says Michael Barrett announced PSA. I will be hosting my. Okay, let's see Wilbur says, I will be hosting my first youth camp at Lowndes on May 13th. Be on the lookout for more details coming. Oh, I guess that's what Michael Beard has announced. He'll be hosting his first youth camp at Lowndes on May 13th. Be on the lookout for more details coming soon. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, speaking of Lowndes, let's pull this up right here. Speaking of Lowndes, you know, there is going to be another opening pretty soon. And that is the grand opening of the Lowndes High School multi-purpose facility. Some people call it an indoor practice facility, but to be technical, it is called the multi-purpose facility. Other people call it different things, but that's the official name. And so we're going to have a grand opening April 13th from 4 to 7 p.m. Just drop in anytime between those hours, and you'll see the magnificence of this structure out there at Lowndes High School. So I can't wait to see it myself. Hope you guys can make it next week. That's April 13th from 4 to 7 p.m. Greg Maddox. Now see what you've started, trainer. Look what you've started. Now, Greg Maddox is getting in on it. He says, I think a pool party for all your followers. So I don't know if we have a yard big enough. Greg, come on, man. We're talking about the Viking Nation here. We got 10,000 followers. I don't know if the neighborhood can handle that many cars. We might have to call in special security to do traffic control. I'm kidding. Let's see. Greg says we could all be on the show with. Well, man, you guys putting some pressure on me. But you know, we're not going to hold a pool party back there for all the followers. We just don't have the space. But I'm not opposed to having some of you guys over when I do the poolside party. I may have a little contest, a little drawing, if you will, to have a couple of co-hosts with me that night, poolside, to help me do the show that night. How about that? I mean, that's a pretty good compromise, right? So anyway, Trainer says, just a reminder on the GHSA news, the GHSA and Hines have been adamant that there is no recruiting going on for the last 15 plus years. I know what you're getting at, Trainer. I know what you're getting at. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later on in the show, talking about a lot of proposals that's going to be put in front of the GHSA to vote on. I mean, this is past the discussion stage. This is taking votes now at their April 17th spring meeting. And we're going to go through some of the more prominent, if you will, more prominent proposals that's going to be hitting the air pretty soon. I don't know how the vote's going to go. I have a pretty good suspicion that how some of them are going to go, but some of them are kind of controversial. So I'm not sure how they're going to go. We're going to get into all that. So anyway, appreciate you guys joining us on the show tonight. If you're just joining us, welcome to the Viking Nation Live. I'm your host, Larry Godwin. Some call me LG. You can call me whatever you want, as long as you call. And if you would like to call, the number is 229-460-1205. Shade Singletary says, is high school football going to start recruiting like college football? Shade, that's a controversial topic because some would claim that the recruiting is already there. It's been happening in high school football for a long, long time. Now, to what degree, that's debatable. We don't know to what degree. We have a suspicion, but it's very, very interesting at how the GHSA is going to target recruiting now. Once you see the language of this proposal, you're going to see how seriously they are taking this now and how they're trying to crack down on it. Right? You wait till you see this proposal. So before we get to all that, I wanted to make sure I thanked Danny Redshaw for appearing on the show last week, the athletic director for Lowndes High. And, you know, I got a lot of good feedback from you guys immediately after show for several days after the interview. Danny did such a good job talking about the state of Lowndes Athletics. Makes you feel good that he's running the ship there, right? So it's full speed ahead for Lowndes Athletics. They got a lot of good stuff going on, and he was very articulate about some of the challenges they face at the state level, because we got into a really, really good discussion about some of the issues that's facing Georgia high school athletics, specifically the GHSA, and some of the approaches they're talking about taking with NIL. A lot of questions. That's a big old can of worms that's about to be opened up, but it's unavoidable. It's unavoidable. And we appreciate Danny for sharing his perspective. It was a very real, it wasn't coach speak, it wasn't administrator speak, but it was a very real discussion about some of the things that's facing prep athletics in the state of Georgia. And I mean, this is the kind of stuff they're discussing now are game changers as far as shaping the landscape of high school, because we're not just talking about football. We're talking about high school athletics in general. And some of the things that they are, some of the things that they're discussing and about to vote on, it's going to definitely change the landscape. So let me take this time before we get into our GHSA discussion, let me welcome one of our super fans onto the screen, Chase Garnto. How you doing, Chase?
What up, LG?
What's up, man? Glad to have you on the program tonight. Looks like you've been mobile in your truck.
Yeah. I'm out at Freedom Park, so.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Hey, let me run some things past you, man. We're talking about, oh, by the way, if you are a golf aficionado, the Masters started today in Augusta, Georgia. And atop the leaderboard is John Rahm, Victor Hovland, and Brooks Koepka. All three are at -7. So I'm see, it's still going on. So I'm watching I'm watching it on the monitor here. So
I got you.
So anyway, let's get into some of the things that's being discussed right now. Okay. So let me pull this up real fast. Let's see. Okay, here we go right here. So I'm gonna share this screen. And let me change this to that view. Okay, so here's what we're talking about. I'm trying to get this to be a much bigger view. Well, hopefully you guys can see that. So there we go. All right, so let's talk about the first proposal right here, right out of the gate. Now, this is a basketball proposal, Chase. If you're looking at your phone, you may not be able to see the print because it might be small on a small screen. So I'll just describe this to you very, very quickly, okay? So this first proposal deals with basketball, specifically the student section, like the concrete crazies or the Coliseum crazies, that kind of stuff. So here's the wording. Students from participating schools shall not be allowed to sit in the first row of seating on either sideline nor either in line, and a minimum of one school administrator in close proximity to the student section. Apparently, we have a student section control problem across the state. In order for something like this to hit the GHSA proposal, then that's probably the case. They're probably getting a lot of complaints, that kind of stuff. So if this proposal passes, they're saying the students can no longer be allowed to sit in the first row of seating on either sideline or in the end line. So I'm not sure why that's that, because what's the difference between the first row and the second row? I guess now they can sit in the second row if it passes. So
there's really no difference.
Here's probably what's happening. Here's probably what's happening. These students, some of these students get a little rowdy, right? So I wonder if they're in the ear of the visiting bench. I wonder if that's what's going on, because the state is really, really trying to promote good sportsmanship, right? And so maybe this is where they're approaching this from. I'm not sure.
Okay, well, let me give a different take on that. Okay. And this would be my question for coaches, and what coaches need to ask the GHSA and formally ask the GHSA. at what juncture do you feel like you're not setting these kids up for the next level? Because do you think that it's really going to matter when they get to college? Have you seen student sections at NCAA games in basketball?
You know,
They are ruthless.
You know, in a lot of our discussions, I've noticed that is a big topic for you, how these student athletes are going to handle the next level. The GHSA is not really concerned about the next level. They're concerned about current day behavior.
Oh, I get that. And I'm fine if they want to put administrators in the student section. If they want to put administrators on the sideline, if they want to back them up one row, like that's really going to make a difference. But my whole point is when you are at even a Division II game, student sections in basketball are absolutely ruthless. They are, and especially a student section from an opposing school, they go back and forth with each other, and it's great. It's fun. It's entertaining. It gets the crowd into it. It gets the players into it. Basketball is very much an energy sport as much as football is. It's all about momentum and how well you can carry it. So student section and fan support is all a big part of that. If you don't have that as a player, you're not going to have the energy that you need to play. You're not, when it gets to the fourth quarter, you're going to be gassed and you're not going to have anything left in the tank, and you're going to have nobody to pull that from.
Yeah. So I'm going to take the other side of it because you're making an argument for, you know, it's okay to turn the students loose and let them be rowdy as much as they want, that kind of stuff. I'm sure you've heard the concrete crazies at a Friday night football game and how cutthroat and brutal they are. Not just not supporting their team, but attacking other players from the opposing team.
Yeah,
I mean, they get brutal.
I like those boys. I love those boys.
So I'm thinking that's probably what they're trying to address here. They're trying to, so they can't really control students. So maybe they're trying to remove them from the field of play just a little bit more. I'm not sure what their thinking is there, but I actually do like this rule. I do.
I got no problem with the rule. I just, at some point, you know, and I played in some loud gymnasiums when I played basketball in high school. And I mean, at times, even during timeouts, you couldn't hear the coach hardly.
Yeah.
Because it's that loud.
Yeah.
And backing them up one row, I don't really feel like that's going to change that, but that's just me.
Yeah. And I understand that, you know, when you go to a football game, basketball, baseball, whatever, and you're visiting someone else's place, there is a reason why they call it home field advantage. And crowd support is a big reason. Student sections is a really big reason.
Oh,
I think we've gotten to a place in society where crude behavior is now not just normalized, but celebrated. And in a school setting, I think we really need to pull back on crude behavior, whether it's the student section or the crowd, because that's really what, you know, in my discussion with Danny Redshaw last week, we were talking about the official shortage. We were talking about sportsmanship. All that stuff boils down to fans attacking the officials. And that's basically what it, so it's really sport. They're really emphasizing good sportsmanship. And I think that's why they're introducing rules like this. Now, I wish they wouldn't have to. I wish on a particular Friday, on any given Friday night, whether it's the Concrete Crazies or the Valdosta student section, the Colquitt, whatever student section, I think we've let, as adults, I think we've let that get out of hand. I really think our administrators, our parents really need to start coaching up our not student athletes, but our student sections to be better fans instead of tearing down other people.
Yeah, and I mean, I get the official shortage, and I get some of that, but how do I say this? All right, we expect our coaches,
yeah,
okay, Lowndes, Valdosta, doesn't matter, Colquitt, doesn't matter, Valwood, Georgia Christian. We expect our coaches to coach the game, ignore the fan noise, tune it all out, don't pay it no attention, and all that. We expect that's what we expect from our coaches.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Why do we not expect the same from our officials?
Because our officials are basically not volunteers, but they're basically part-time volunteers that they don't have to be there.
I get that. I get that. But at the same time, that's kind of like, I don't know, man. It's to me, we have to, if we're going to expect that out of coaches, we got to expect that out of our officials as well. If fans are going to do what fans are going to do. I mean,
well, that's
do we need to do it with do the fans need to have a little bit more respect when it comes to it? Yeah, but if an official expects to not get booed on a call or something like that,
Chase, we are beyond being booed on a call, because I wore the striped shirt and the black hat down there on the field, and I can tell you, even back in those days, man, I can't tell you how many times I got tired of hearing someone shout from the fans, "F you this" and "F you that." It's like, come on, guys, this is a high school football game. And now with the threat of violence becoming very, very real, because we've all seen it on TikTok, we've all seen it on YouTube videos, whatever, with the threat of violence against officials, we're beyond officials being booed. I think that's all I'm saying is, I think that's what the GHSA is trying to do here, is to reclaim good sportsmanship.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think, honestly, and this is coming from a basketball guy. I mean, I love basketball, but at a certain point, some of these basketball games, especially these high schools, they're going to have to figure out some way to separate the fans from the floor, whether it be they're going to have to modify gyms to where the court's lower and the fans are elevated up just a little bit, or something, to where, kind of like at Colquitt, for example. Colquitt doesn't have a big elevated concrete section and all like Lowndes and Valdosta does, but they have a chain link fence that runs the length of it. So there's some separation between the fans and the field. In basketball, you don't have that.
Correct.
There is no separation. And I think that's become a lot of the issue, especially at the high school level, is fans can just storm the floor and go after a referee or go after a coach go after anything like that. As much as it is a people problem, it's a design flaw as well.
Sure, absolutely. And so I actually like this rule. Backing them up one row, I don't think that's going to do very much, but probably more symbolic than anything. But the addition of having at least one school administrator. Now, I like the idea of having the school administrator there, but the school administrator needs to pay attention and actually be engaged with that student section instead of sitting there on his phone or her phone the entire game, right? If you're going to have an administrator there, make sure they're there for a reason, right? All right, so that's the first proposal. Let's go on to the second one before we run out of time on the show. Okay, so the second one is to change the permanent seating requirements for hosting semifinal round football playoff games. This is a big deal. Several years ago, Lowndes went up to play Milton High School in I can't remember if it was a quarterfinal or a semifinal round. I think it was a semifinal round. And Milton High School did not have the seating requirements necessary to host a semifinal game. So we had to move the game to, I think, Denmark High School. And so it was a neutral field. We still had to go up there, played at Denmark High School Stadium. So they're proposing to basically lower the seating requirements for all the different classifications. Now, specifically 6A and 7A, they're going to lower it down to 4,500. Not just the visitor side, but 4,500, the entire stadium capacity.
Lowndes could bring that in one trip.
What's that now?
I said Lowndes could bring that in one trip.
I believe so. So anyway, that is proposal number 2. Number 3 is, now this is an interesting, this addresses recruiting a little bit. A family who purchases and resides in a home located in a school district attendance area qualifies the student for immediate eligibility in that school district as long as the previous residence has been relinquished according to the GHSA guidelines. So now it's basically saying if you purchase a home, right, the kid is automatically eligible right then. As long as you show that you're purchasing a home and the previous residence is being relinquished. That's it. That's purchasing a home. It says purchasing a home in a attendance district will be considered a bona fide move, even if the home purchase and the enrollment date are not simultaneous. So they're just trying to clarify the language there. Now, here's the big
question. I got a question on that one.
Yeah.
So basically, if I'm reading that right, say if I own a home here, okay, and I buy a home in North Georgia in the Grayson School District.
Yeah.
Okay. I have to give up ownership of my house down here and live up there.
Correct.
Even if I want to keep this house and rent it out.
No. You can keep the house down here as long as you relinquish control. So that means that if you rent it out, that's fine. That just shows the GHSA that, yeah, you got another family living in this house, so you are relinquishing control, even though you're still owning.
That was my question, because the wording was a little bit. It was like you had to sell your existing property, even though if you wanted to keep it rented out.
No. As long as they can relinquish control of it, then the GHSA is satisfied with that. Okay. All right. So here's the big one. A proposal to mandate a 2-year sit-out period for 9th and 10th grades for any middle school student athlete who, and there's a multiple bullet point here, who, okay, so remember, this is applying to any middle school student athlete. And if they're caught violating these rules, they have to sit out the 9th and 10th grade years. That's pretty big, right? So here's the bullet points. If this middle schooler attends a skills camp, a combine, or official visit set by schools to host student athletes and transfers to a school or feeder or high school where any of the coaches working the event are employed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I get what they're saying there.
Okay, so they're saying that
it's not specific enough. If I feel like.
Well, no. The wording is very, very specific here. Here's what it's talking about, this particular bullet point. If any middle schooler, whether it's 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, let's say your son is in the middle school, okay, yep, and you live in the Lowndes School District, okay, and you go to a skills camp over in Colquitt County.
Okay.
Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
And in that skills camp, you have an assistant coach or any coach that is working that camp that works for, here's the key, that works for Colquitt High School. Okay. And then after your middle schooler attends that camp, then later transfers to Colquitt High School, because that assistant coach that works for Colquitt worked that. So that is considered, they're thinking there, that's considered in undue influence. So if you end up transferring there, that's too much of a coincidence. They're going to say, if you're a middle schooler, you got to sit out your 9th and 10th grade years.
Oh, wow.
So we've always said that if these schools recruit, you better do it in the middle school, right? If you spot a super athlete coming up in the middle schools, you better do it in the middle schools because there's no penalty.
Yeah.
Right. But now they're saying, if you attend one of these skills camps and your coach, and listen, this skills camp doesn't have to be located at Colquitt High School. Let's say the skills camp was located at Tift County, at Brody Field. But one of those assistant coaches that work for Colquitt is helping out with that camp. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that kid still later transfers to Colquitt High School. They got to sit out their 9th and 10th grade years.
I don't have no problem with that rule. Now that you explain it a little differently, I actually like that rule because I really think that that's how some of these programs, I'm not going to say which ones, but that's how I think some of these programs get their super athletes in middle school.
Yeah. Absolutely,
So,
man. Now, this is
and
probably going to have a bigger ramification for middle schoolers in the metro Atlanta area because this is where a lot of this stuff happens.
now let me ask you this. Say if and I noticed, say if a NCAA athlete comes and hosts a football camp at Valdosta High School for middle school age kids,
Right.
and he's got coaches from Valdosta, and he's got coaches from wherever, and they come in and they are helping and coaching and everything like that, and is that still going to be considered the same thing?
Yeah, so that this rule is very, very specific. At that skills camp, if there isn't so here's the way it's going to work. So whenever these skills camps happens, the GHSA wants a complete list of all participants and staff working the event. That's how they're going to police this and enforce it. So every skills camp now is going to basically have to be registered with the GHSA. That's how they'll enforce it. That's how they can go back and track it later if there is a complaint. Hey, let's take a pause right there. We want to welcome Shane Thomas, world-renowned sports reporter with the Valdosta Daily Times. Shane, how are you?
I'm great, Larry. How are you?
I'm good, man. Hey, listen, I've got Chase Garnto, fellow Lounge superfan, on the line with you as well. We're going to double team you tonight. Appreciate you calling in, Shane. I know that this time of year, your world is probably pretty busy with all these spring sports that you're covering.
Oh, yeah, man. We got tennis. We got baseball. There's college softball going on. There's a lot of different things going on. So, yeah, I'm still busy for the time being.
I gotcha. Hey,
well, that's a good thing.
When I reached out to you to call in tonight, we talked about some potential topics to cover. And one hot button topic that is right around the corner that we're really all excited about and waiting to see is spring practice for all of our area teams, specifically Lowndes and Valdosta. And I wanted to get your opinion on a couple of different matters when it comes to spring practice for these two programs. You game for that?
Oh, yeah, I'm down.
Okay. All right, let's talk about, since we've got a large Lowndes audience tonight. Let's talk about Lowndes first. You know, we've got a first-year head coach in Adam Carter taking over for Zach Grage, who departed, and coincidentally is now a co-offense coordinator at Valdosta High School. So we'll talk about that in a second. So we got Lowndes that's potentially running a new offensive scheme, new defensive scheme. Had a young team last year. They've got years of experience under their belt, but with Adam Carter, he's bringing in a whole bevy of assistant coaches, and some of them, not some of them, but really all of them have pedigrees that look outstanding. I don't know, Shane, if you've had a chance to dig into some of the things that we can expect coming out of spring ball for these two programs. What's your thoughts initially on the Lowndes Vikings?
No, I like the hire from Coach Carter. You know, he's familiar with the area. He was a defensive coordinator at Valdosta at one point. You know, so I mean, he's familiar with the area. He understands what it takes to win, you know, at a school down here. You know, I think last year, that team, you know, considering the record, I think they did pretty well. There were times where, you know, the offense had clicked, defense had its issues, but I mean, that's kind of to be expected, as you said, with a young team. So I just want to see the maturation level on defense and the development on offense. Liked what we saw from Marvis Parrish at times last year. I think he performed better than a lot of people expected. It's like, We knew he could run, but, you know, he was also, you know, a factor throwing the ball as well. You know, at times that was a little streaky toward the end of the season, but I thought he played really well in the times I got a chance to see him. So, you know, losing some receivers, losing a couple defensive guys, obviously that's, you know, you have to make up for that. But, coming from a place like Grayson where they've perennially been a factor.
Yeah.
I think their optimism should be high with the Vikings.
I got you. Okay. Well, I agree with you there. I certainly agree with you there. Now, do you expect now if you had to guess, given the limited knowledge that we have with a new coaching staff coming in, do you expect the offense or the defense to lead the way this year for Lowndes?
I think honestly, you still have to look at the offense a little bit.
Okay.
That's where a lot of the big guns are. You still got Smoke Fleming. I think at times he, even though he had a good season, I think at times, he was kind of secondary at times. I think he'll probably be more featured this year as well. I think depending on, obviously with Coach Carter being a more defensive oriented coach, I think we'll definitely see some improvement on that side. Especially in this area anyway. Defense is huge. We saw that, in Valdosta's success last year as well. So I think the offense will be probably ahead of the defense by the start of spring, but I think the defense will be much improved.
I got you. Okay. Hey, let's switch over across town. By the way, Chase is really about to lose his mind right now because you can't see this on the screen.
Hold on. I got a question for Shane. Okay. Why do you think the defense is not going to be the brighter and more prominent than the offense is at Lowndes?
I just think, usually when the defense has been good, there's been a lot of dudes that we knew right away. I think there's still some guys there, but I just think like given that it's a young team, you're still trying to see like what you have. Like I said, I think by the end of spring we'll know more. I just think given that, you still got your playmakers on offense, I think they'll probably be ahead of the curve a little bit, but the defense probably won't be far behind at all.
I got
Oh God.
Shane.
I'm not trashing.
I wish you could see what Larry has on his head.
Shane, while you're being serious, talking about the local sports scene, that kind of stuff, I'm having a little bit of fun with Chase and the crowd and the audience right now. So I've got a crazy hat segment that I've started on the show, right? So last couple of weeks I've worn a couple of different cowboy hats. This week on the Migraine and Spine Clinic of Valdosta crazy hat segment, I am wearing is this considered a sombrero?
It looks like a sombrero.
It looks like I could be serving tacos at the El Toreo, doesn't it?
Yes.
So Shane, that's why Chase and I are about to lose our minds. We're laughing so hard.
Oh, I was not expecting that. When he reached back and grabbed that, I really wasn't expecting it, Shane. I was like, I'm trying to listen to your answer, but
Shane,
caught you off guard.
Shane, listen, man, I'm so distracted by this big old hat that I've got on right now. But I've got a question for you. When you called in, Chase and I were talking about some of the proposals that the GHSA is going to be rolling out in their spring meeting that's coming up on the 17th. And one particular proposal is targeting recruiting at the middle school level. And so we were getting into that when you could. So what do you think about this? This particular bullet point in this proposal talks about if there is a skills camp that a middle schooler attends and there's and any of the coaches that are working the event, and basically if that middle schooler then ends up transferring to that school that coach works in, that middle schooler now has to sit out the 9th and 10th grade years.
Ooh,
that's a big one, right?
That's huge because I don't know. There's a lot of questions with that because how do you prove that just because they decide to transfer over there that they were recruited necessarily? Yeah,
you can't. They're basically saying that without saying it in the language of this proposal here. They're basically saying it's too coincidental so we're going to err on the side of undue influence. So they're basically warning everyone. You better make sure before you send your kid to that camp, you better make sure who you know who those coaches are.
I like that there is a vetting process as far as, knowing who all is involved, and what school they work for. I think that's a good way to go from that standpoint. I feel like it gets a little murky if you're talking like, okay, if there's a camp, because at that point it becomes, okay, who's being invited to the camp, and then what are their credentials? I think there's something to look at on that side as well. I don't know. It's interesting that it's starting at the middle school level, and not so much at the varsity level already. Because a lot of times when these kids transfer over, a lot of them are sophomore, juniors, and then they come to Valdosta, they come to Lowndes, and then they pop.
That's right.
So I mean, I think honestly, if we're looking at the recruiting aspect, I think you probably should look further into the varsity side, probably more so than the middle school, just because a lot of times if a kid transfers over, they're looking to make an immediate impact.
That's
not
right.
Not from freshman on.
Yeah. So here's the next part of that proposal. So there's three distinct bullet points that encompass this proposal. So the next one is, okay, so the middle schooler attends a skills camp, combine, or official visit set by schools to host student athletes and transfers to the school where the camp or event was held. Okay, so the first one dealt with the coaches, where the coaches were employed. The second one deals with where the camp is being held. So if the camp is held at Lowndes High School and a middle schooler ends up transferring to Lowndes High School, they got to sit out 9th and 10th grade years.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's that's something else, man. I just looking at that, I mean, that's
big.
wow. I mean, yeah, it is big. Because obviously if you look at the college level, if Valdosta State has a showcase,
yeah,
you might have like some of the better players that may not be getting D1 looks, but they might be looking at Division II, and they'll be at Valdosta State.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that. I mean, Terrell Roberts, that played for Valdosta a few years ago, was offered at Valdosta State, and all they did was had to see him run one time.
That's right.
I think they offered him on the spot. So that's interesting. I mean, it's given that it's a skills camp, it's interesting that they're cracking down at the level where you're looking to kind of plant your roots and develop a kid heading toward varsity.
That's right. And the proliferation. Well, the
Proliferation.
Yeah. Well, I got my hat on, so I can't say it. So. The popularity of these skill camps, even for middle schoolers, is growing like wildfire right now. Right.
Yeah,
and so
I think what Shane's thinking is in the back of his mind, and Shane, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're thinking more like, okay, well, if the kid does attend a skills camp and say his parents might be in the area looking for a house or whatever else, and then they buy a house and change jobs, move to that area. Now all of a sudden you're basically telling the kid, yeah, but you attended this camp back when you were 7th or 8th grade. Now you got to sit out your 9th, 10th grade year.
Yeah. Like how can you be penalized for, trying to figure out where you want to go to school and where you want to stay? I mean, if, I don't know, it's interesting because it's different than college because you don't have scholarships and all that. But when you're talking, okay, we're middle school kids can't decide where they want to go to high school unless, the GHSA is going to get involved saying, hey, you got recruited here. I don't know. I feel like there has to be more of a process to it before you can start penalizing.
Yeah. So here's the final part of that proposal. Any coach or school hosting one of these camps, combines, or official visits set by schools to host student athletes must report the following to the GHSA: A complete list of all staff working the event. This includes those on the field involved with any aspect of the event, including but not limited to registration and facility rental and care. And then B, a complete list of participants in attendance. So basically every skills camp out there now has to be registered with the GHSA to include every person that's going to be working the event. That goes from basically concessions. I'm not kidding. Where it says involved in any aspect of the event. So you're talking about someone that takes tickets or hands out registration forms, in any way connected with the event. That name has to appear on a list. Send it to the GHSA, and they want a list of all kids attending that camp as well. That's how they're going to police this thing.
That's pretty thorough.
That's pretty thorough. Look, I like it, man. Let me tell you why. Because we have been screaming for years about recruiting, an undue influence, and that kind of stuff. And it looks like the GHSA is finally getting serious about this. It's going to inconvenience some kids. It's going to inconvenience some families. It's going to be unfair. Some kid is going to get captured in a weird situation, and they're going to get penalized, that kind of stuff. But guys, this is what we've been screaming for years, right? And I'm glad they're finally at least taking this seriously enough to put this proposal out there.
Yeah, and I just wonder what the trickle down will be, like what the effect will be on the varsity level. Because I mean, we have kids that, you know, they ever since we got introduced to the bona fide move with the whole Rush Pro situation at Valdosta.
Yep.
Now it's like even that's a murky thing.
That's right.
Because you may have a person that, you know, in the Gabe Harris situation at Valdosta, where they're practicing all spring and they're there. And then, you know, they go through the summer and everything, and then it's time to play the games, and then suddenly that person's ineligible. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that works as far as kids that do transfer, bona fide moves, and how that ties into the recruiting aspect as well.
That's right. Hey, before we go on any further about recruiting and that kind of stuff, Chase is going to have to go pretty soon. But I did want to ask you, you know, we were talking a while ago about spring practice in Valdosta. I forgot to ask you about the question that I had for Valdosta. And that is, you know, we're expecting their defense to be really, really good again this year, because their defense was fairly young last year and they were stellar. Their offense was young, and so we expect them to be good. But they've had some off the field troubles this year, specifically kids getting in trouble with the law. How much of an effect do you think that will have on Valdosta's defense this coming season? We won't talk about particular kids or specific actions, whatever, but we do have to recognize it because it does affect their team. To what extent do you think it affects their defense?
Oh, I think it's a huge factor because, you know, the defense was basically anchored by these players. And so given their stature and their role on the defense, you have to wonder, okay, what's their status and how does that affect? I think given that the defense was so strong up front and so talented and aggressive up front, you know, that you have to expect that that's going to take a major hit. And then they had some kids graduate as well. Tim Roberson, their top corner, looked like he was poised to break the single season interceptions record. Had, I think, 7 over the first 6 games in 6 in a row. Yeah. And, you know, you lose a ball hawk like that, that's big as well. So they got some holes to fill and some questions to answer. You know, I'm ready to see what they do in spring and how they plan to, you know, answer a lot of those questions.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Hey, Chase, before you go, I got something for you, Chase, before you go. And that is, if this next proposal passes in a couple of weeks at the spring meeting at the GHSA, then athletic head coaches will no longer be required to hold a teaching certificate in the state of Georgia.
I can't wait.
So here's the specific proposal. To modify bylaw 2.51 on page 26 of the Constitution to read as follows. An athletic head coach must be a professional teacher, a certified parapro, or hold a 4-year degree while also employed in a teaching or administrative position. So that basically means that you can be a parapro as long as you're a certified parapro, right?
Yeah.
Or you could have a 4-year college degree employed in a teaching, or here's the key, or administrative position. So if you're a school system, you can basically create an administrative position specifically for this head coach, like Lowndes has done. You call it the director of football operations, right? As long as they have a 4-year degree or a certified parapro, and if this passes, they now would qualify to be a head coach. What do you guys? What do you guys think of that rule?
I love it.
Yeah, I like that as well. I like that a lot, just because it's, it doesn't take somebody that is has the acumen to teach the game and do so at a high level. It doesn't put them in a box. I think as long as you're somewhat employed by the school and can do that, I think that's fine. I like it.
I love it. I'm in agreement. I think there are some great guys out there that are football coaches that are youth football coaches because they love the game and they've wanted to stay attached to the game in a coaching area, but they don't have the time to go back to school because they're supporting their family or whatever, who have the ability to coach at the high school level or the middle school level.
Yeah.
And I think it's great. I think it could absolutely change the middle school landscape in South Georgia and the high school landscape.
Well, it absolutely will. Yeah, there's no around that.
I think it's great.
I completely agree.
So here's the deal. If you had this rule in place a couple of years ago, 3, 4, 5 years ago, and I'm going to use Rush Probst's name.
I was fixing to say, I knew it was coming.
And his teaching certificate was suspended. Under this rule, he can still be a head football coach in the state of Georgia.
Yep.
At a high school because one, he holds a 4-year degree. I'm assuming that he does. I think he does. In order to be a certificate teacher, that's a safe assumption. So he didn't have, as long as he's employed by the school system as an administrator and he's got a 4-year degree, he would qualify to be a head football coach.
Yes.
So there you go.
Well, it's funny. One of the papers in our company actually is near Pale City, where he was just hired. So I told him that there's a good chance that atrocities may come from this. So I mean, who knows? We may see Rush again. Who knows?
Listen, I'm telling you right here. If Probst goes over there to Pale City and turns that program into a championship caliber program, it solidifies his legacy as one of the best ever.
Yes, absolutely.
You can complain about his personal life, his professional life, his alleged recruiting, all that stuff. But Pell City's football record over the last 10 or 15 years has been terrible. And if he turns that program into a state contender, I mean, he's doing something over there.
But if anybody can, I mean, he's the guy.
It's going to be interesting to see. That's for sure. That's for sure.
He's the guy. I've talked to some of his former players who played for him about Austin Larry over the last couple of months. And they rave about his football IQ and the way he coaches.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I work in media and I can see that myself. I mean, you get the sense. I mean, that, regardless of, his moral compass and that kind of thing, I mean, there's no denying. I mean, he's a football genius.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. So here's another proposal that's going to be voted on. So they are past the discussion stage here. A proposal to use video review at the state championship football games, beginning with the 2023 season, this upcoming season. And so then there's a note, the entire protocol and procedures, they've already got it written out. The entire protocol and procedures for video review may be read on the football page of the GHSA website. What do you guys think about one? Shane, what's your thoughts on video review at the state championship games?
Absolutely love it, because we saw the biggest miscarriage of justice. I forget who forget the game where the kid was like 5 yards short and they gave him the touchdown.
Yeah, I can't remember this past season what game that was, but I know who you're talking about. And it was a travesty of justice. It really was. It's like
100%.
They awarded the wrong team.
Yeah,
they did.
Right, and that to me, I mean, I didn't even have a dog in that fight, and I just thought that was outrageous. So I think it's beautiful for that. You need it if somebody's gonna make an error that bad, and a team can't appeal that or protest it. So that's right. Replay, all for it.
That's right. So if you are watching this tonight and you're interested to know what the details are, we'll cover some of the details here in a couple minutes. But if you are interested in reading the complete set of details and protocols and how this is going to be implemented, I have posted the link in the comments section. Don't do it now because we're still doing the show. But after the show, you can click on that and read about all the details about how they're going to implement it. So here's the first thing. So the video review is a process where video review is used to confirm. Here's the deal: to confirm, to let stand, or to reverse certain field decisions made by game officials. The review process operates under the assumption that the official's ruling on the field is correct. Okay, so that's very important. So the football review system will have 3 officials. The review official, who will make all decisions regarding replay. Okay, so that's important. So the video review official will make all decisions regarding replay. So the second person is the communicator, who will assist the video review official with such duties as obtaining the video replays and in communication. And the third person, the sideline replay assistant, will be easily identifiable. This assistant, the SRA, will also wear the communications headset on the sidelines always and be prepared to give the headset to the referee in the event the game is stopped for review. This person should stand on the press box side of the field on one of the 20-yard line. So does that make sense? So there's 3 people that's involved. You got the replay official. That's one person that's looking at this. You've got the official communicator. So this is the person that stands between the review official in the booth, and then the third person, the sideline replay assistant that communicates and hands the headset over to the white hat referee. So that seems like that seems like it's doable.
Yeah, 100%.
All review video will come from network television such as GHSA syndicated productions, GPB, Peachtree TV, or ESPN. So basically, if you are a TV production team and you've already got the game covered, they're going to use your equipment to do that. That makes sense, right? There's no duplication there. Or from other video means on site, such as web streaming cameras. The video to support video review will be taken from the respective production truck or from these cameras and be fed to the booth by multiple independent high-definition broadcast production feeds. Okay, so that's basically how they're going to do it. Now, here are the reviewable plays. So I'm not going to go over all this stuff because it's a long list of stuff. I mean, I thought they were just going to review a couple of plays here, there, maybe scoring plays, that kind of stuff. But there's a whole list of things, such as, obviously, reviewable plays involving passes included, completed passes, incompleted passes, interceptions. So this basically talks about it can occur anytime during the game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So anyway, there is a long list of plays that's reviewable. Here's how they would initiate the review process. There are 2 methods to stop a game to review a ruling on the field. So the video review stops the game. Okay, so the video review official and their crew shall review every play of a game. The video review official may stop a game at any time before the ball is next legally put in play, whatever they believe that there's reasonable evidence to believe an error was made in the initial on-field ruling. The play is reviewable. the outcome of review would have a direct competitive impact on the field. What do you guys think about that? So you've got a football official up there. His whole goal is to review every single play. Okay. Now that's scenario number one. Scenario number two is head coach challenge. Now, this is what I was waiting to see if they were going to implement this. The head coach of either team may request that the game be stopped and a play be reviewed by challenging the on-field ruling. The video review shall be initiated by the designated head coach tossing a red flag onto the field in front of a nearby official. The flag must be thrown following the end of the play in question and prior to the next legal snap or free kick of the next play. The officials will call an official timeout to confer. Let's see. You know, it doesn't say. Okay, here it is. I was wondering how many challenges they have. So here it is. Each team shall be allowed 2 video reviews during a contest, 1 per each half. In the final 2 minutes of each half, no challenges would be allowed from either team. All video review would be initiated from the review official during the last 2 minutes of each half. There you go. There's the answers. So each half, what do you guys think about this? Each half, each team gets 1 challenge, and you can't challenge it in the final 2 minutes of a half.
I like that.
Makes sense.
It does make sense. I kind of compare that to the NBA. They have a similar deal as well, where, you know, you don't challenge anything in the last 2 minutes. Everything that is in question goes straight to the officials if they decide they want to review it to get it right. So no, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is a pretty detailed document, guys. They have really done their homework, thought this thing out. And we knew Robin Hines was involved in this, and he's a very studious guy, very detail oriented guy. So you'd expect nothing more or nothing less, I should say, than this. So this is good stuff. It tells you exactly what's going to happen, who's involved, when it applies, and how many times it can apply. I like it.
Yeah, we have a lot of things that offer clarity. So I think the closer you can get it to the college product, as far as what things are important and getting it right, I think that's huge, man. I like that a lot. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, guys,
I got a question for Shane.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Shane, here's something that and me and Larry's had this conversation several times. Do you see some of the larger high school programs, be it Lowndes, Valdosta, Colquitt, Grayson, Milton, Buford, all these big-time high school Georgia programs, do you see them eventually getting to the point where at least once a week during the season and after every football game or whatever, they're going to be to the point where they have a press room where they give an interview after the game and you get to talk to maybe the star player of the game for that game, or the captain of the defense, captain of the offense, and the head coach, whatever it may be? Do you eventually see big time high school football getting to that point?
You talking like a post game press conference?
Yes.
I wouldn't be opposed to that. I think it would give it some organization. I like that. I like that idea, you know, being a reporter, because sometimes, you know, you may get the head coach after the game, but if you want a player, you know, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
I think honestly, at the bigger schools, I think you could see it being a more polished product in terms of how things happen. I mean, obviously you'd need some student involvement. I would want to see the press conference idea that Chase just put out there. Also, I wouldn't mind like some kind of press release situation like you would have with Valdosta State, where you have like a short recap of a game or something like that. I think those things would be great, especially if there's games where, say, the newspaper can't make it to the road game or something like that. I think those kind of things would be big, but obviously you'd need more resources to make that happen.
Yeah.
But I like the press conference idea. I think that's genius. I think that would actually, you know, help get kids more exposure, and they need that as far as media training as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, here's why it'll never happen. Because let's say Grayson, Milton, McEachern, whoever comes down to Lowndes, or vice versa. Lowndes goes up to one of those schools. Okay. And then you complete the game. Players go to the locker room, they shower, they get ready, that kind of stuff. Now you hold a press conference where all those players are there and the coaches, whatever. Man, you're just delaying those teams from getting back home on a 3.5 hour bus ride. That's why it won't happen.
All right.
So I can maybe it happens for the home team. I don't know, but I just don't see a full blown wide scale press conference that involves both teams and both coaches, because you got a team full of hungry, sleepy, tired players waiting another hour for a press conference to end before they can get on the road and get home.
No, I meant specifically for the home team, not the visiting team.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you can do that now. Now, is it ever going to be widespread? No, I don't think so. Just because, as much as we love high school football, I don't think coaches and players would love it that much to stick around for a formal press conference.
One thing, since we're talking about a lot of changes, one thing I'd like to see, and Larry, you've seen me on the sideline.
Yeah.
Is can we get the main referee that calls the penalties? Can we get him the microphone for every referee at a game? Like whoever announces the penalties, can we get that? Can we get the guy a mic for all that?
I would love that I would love that because most of the people in the stands have no idea what those hand signals mean.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially the complicated ones.
So fast, you don't know. Right.
Yeah. As long as we're talking about our wish list, you know what I would wish? I wish the fans at high school games would learn the high school rules, because not a lot, but some of them differ from college and pro rules.
Oh, yes. We have this conversation.
A catchable pass, like a catchable pass and a potential interference. And it's like, well, you don't have an uncatchable pass rule in high school football. You just don't.
Yeah. We have this conversation on a daily basis about basketball, because these kids that play high school basketball now, they mimic what they see at the college and the NBA level.
That's right. So
the rules different for college and NBA than they are for high school ball.
That's right. Hey, Donna Snellgrove, she's a mom of a parent, and I'm right with her. She says, come on, this is high school football. Don't turn it into more Friday night lights. Let these kids be kids. College will come soon enough. Absolutely. I'm right there with you, Donna Snellgrove. So anyway.
With the basketball thing, I do think I think there needs to be understood kind of a universal rule as to how things are enforced.
Sure.
I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Because you can't have, it's a travel at high school level, but it's legal in college or the NBA. Or you can, we see the NBA all the time. Guys can palm the ball and do things, but then that's going to be called carrying at another level. Yep, so we just need a clear interpretation of the rules so that, we can get a uniform rule so everybody's playing the game the way it's supposed to be played by the book, rather than it's being ref this way and this way and this way.
I agree.
Absolutely.
100%.
Hey, last thing is Jackie Moore Fender. She brings up a good point. Let's address it. She said bad calls happen during regular season games that could knock a team out of the playoffs. If we review championship games, why not all games? That
becomes a financial issue.
Yeah. So Jackie, I would say that I think most fans would be like 95% of fans that want the instant replay rule in effect would agree with you. I wish that every game across the state had these rules, but really, on a practical level, it's just too expensive for because you're talking about adopting a rule statewide. Let's say Cook County. Let's talk about a small school, Lanier County.
Mm-hmm.
So if we adopted this rule statewide for every program, so that would mean that Lanier County would have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars just to have the equipment in place. And then you got to hire 3 extra officials per game. And so it just becomes a cost prohibitive measure to adopt statewide for every single game. So that's, I always operate under the principle of, do good when you can. Okay. Maybe you can't do it in every situation. And so how would it apply to this? You just financially can't do something like this for every situation, but do good when you can. And when you can is when you have all the equipment already in place. And logically, that would just make sense because the state championship game, because it's held in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, already has the equipment in place. And that's why they're doing this. They're not penalizing teams playing regular season games or playoff games. They're just trying to do good when they can. And that's a great principle, in my opinion, to live under no matter what aspect of your life you're trying to apply it to. Would y'all agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. I think with that, we saw it with high school where they adopted the shot clock. That started kind of, I think, at region games first, and then it became like a regular season thing. But, you don't pay as much money probably for a shot clock as you would extra officials and the equipment that you'd need. So I'm with you, Larry. Officials got to call it how they see it and just try to do the best job possible, especially at the schools that aren't as fortunate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, guys, that's going to wrap up our show. We've been almost an hour and a half into this thing. So if you're just now catching us, I'm sorry, but we got to end the show because we got to go get something to eat, prepare our kids for bed, all that stuff. But I do want to thank both Chase Garnto and Shane Thomas with the Valdosta Daily Times for joining our broadcast tonight. Shane, don't be a stranger. You're welcome on the program anytime. You do a fantastic job at the Valdosta Daily Times, and we are fortunate as a community to have you roaming all these sidelines across South Georgia.
Thank you, Larry. I appreciate that, man. Anytime.
All right, man. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, Shane.
You too.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Chase, I'm going to give you the final word, man, before we call it a night.
Man, I love these new rule changes. Some of them, not all of them. Some of them I can do without. But for the most part, I love all the new rule changes. I think there's some more pressing issues that the GHSA probably needs to look at. I'm with Shane on some of that. Other than that, I think it's good. I think it's a good forward move. I think it's good to forward think in terms of some of it. But other than that, that's really all I could say about that, other than, of course, go Vikings, go Noles, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I could have done without the go Noles stuff. But I will say, listen, there are some other rules being prepared, being put forth. We'll cover some of those next week as we wrap that part of it up. I will say this: if you have a golfer that's in high school that plays in the larger classifications, that is 4A, 5A, 6A. This applies to next season because we're going back to six classifications instead of the current 7. So 4A, 5A, 6A golfers, your season is going to be switched from the spring, and that is going to be moved to the fall. So the golf season for classes 4A, 5A, 6A starting next school year is going to be in the fall instead of the spring. Now, if you're in class 1A, 2A, 3A, you're still going to play golf in the spring. Don't know why they did it that way. I suspect because these golf courses around here that all these schools play on get congested, especially during the spring, right?
Yeah,
so I think for the bigger schools that have bigger teams, more fans, tournaments take longer, that kind of stuff, they're probably moving it to the fall for course availability, that kind of stuff. So, which I think is a good idea. Guys, that's going to do it for our program for tonight. There's one last comment. Kara Bethay says the Berrien player committed to the Gators last week. Yeah, Josiah Davis. Kara, thank you so much for reminding me of that. My alma mater, Berrien High School Rebels, they're all-world stud, really athlete, do-it-all athlete up there in Nashville. He has committed to the Florida Gators. And so congratulations, Josiah Davis. You gave in this old Rebels heart, you gave us a thrill every time you touched the ball. And I can't wait to see what you do in college. So, guys, that's going to do it for our show for the night. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Remember, this Sunday is Easter Sunday. Please remember why we celebrate this year. Because of the death and the resurrection of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. If you don't have a relationship with Jesus, please give me a call so we can talk about that. Because today can be the day of salvation. If you don't have a Bible-believing church that you belong to, give me a shout. I'll be happy to give you a ride. So with that said, may God bless you and go Vikings.
Go Vikings.